Please state your name. I guess what bands you play in.
Hmm. Yeah, my name is Chris Richards. I played in a band from DC called Q and Not You. Nowadays, I'm the pop music critic at the Washington Post, among other things, and I live in Silver Spring, Maryland. I just turned 46 years old.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I think my dad's that age.
Yeah, yep,
No, I forget my parents' age.
that's all good. I have two kids who are much younger than you. They're 7 and 4. So,
All right, I guess to start off, this is just a quick question.
mhm.
Um, do you know Shushu, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so I was looking the other day and I saw on the liner notes for Fabulous Muscles your name and I just wondered how
Wow,
that came about.
that's wild. That's You're the first person to ask me about this ever. Um, and that's great. Jamie from Shushu and I became pen pals after I heard the first Shushu album. I believe the first Shushu album. It was the first one on the label 5RC. It's called Knife Play,
Mhm.
and it was the most exciting thing that I had heard at that time. So I very quickly, I don't know if it was an actual snail mail letter or an email, but I got in touch with Jamie and asked if Shushu would want to play any shows with Q and Not You because I was just so into it. And our bands only got together one time for like one show in California, but um, I remember the correspondence being very um, friendly and constructive, and it was just I think when young artists resonate with each other kind of across style lines, it's really interesting because Shushu sounded nothing like my band, and my band sounded nothing like Shushu at all. But to be able to kind of recognize some kind of common human thread between the two felt meaningful. I say this all in hindsight. At the time, we were just
Yeah.
excitedly writing to each other. Um, but I think Jamie's an incredible musician. It's incredible that Shushu still exists and has grown in the ways that it has and has continued to reach new audiences. I saw them for the first time in many years just last fall, and I didn't even get a chance to talk to Jamie because I was up in Baltimore and I just buzzed up to see the show and I had to get home really quick.
Was it
We hadn't talked in a long time either, actually. And I wrote to his publicist, weirdly enough, and was like, "Hey, can we do a story in the Washington Post someday?" I've always kind of shied away from writing about people that I know about personally, but
yeah.
Jamie and I had not been in touch for so long that I feel like there's I don't know statute of limitations or something, like some kind of expiration date on that. Anyway, that's all to say. Uh, we were just friendly in the scene back then, and I was really really honored to be mentioned on that album, which is like a masterpiece record.
Yeah.
Um, and that's really cool that you noticed that. That's great.
Was the show you went to October 11th at the Black Cat?
No, I missed the Black Cat show because I was away, but then Shushu played 2 nights later in Baltimore at Metro Gallery. So I had missed I didn't even know that the Friday show had happened and saw people posting about it. And I said, oh God, I can't believe I missed this. And then I said, oh, they're in Baltimore in 48 hours. So I hustled up there and back, and it was really cool. Were you at the Black Cat show?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. How was it?
Yeah, it was really cool. I
Yeah.
met Angela, kind
Great.
of met Jamie because they were signing merch and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, they're
Well,
really nice people.
that drummer is was just blew me away too. I was so impressed by the whole thing. So, um, sometimes in punk and in hardcore or in the communities that are adjacent to it, there's a term called lifers.
Hmm.
I love this term. It's basically means like people who are committed to doing this for the whole ride. And Jamie is such an embodiment of a lifer to me. Um, just by the fact that the band still exists and continues to go forward, it's incredible.
Yeah.
With such like unrelenting intensity and finding new ways to really express parts of being a person that so little music is maybe even capable of expressing, you know? Um, I mean, I think probably the fundamental chord that resonated between Shushu's music and me is probably rooted in like the idea of emo, you know, this
Yeah.
notion of like total exteriorization of your inner self. Um, I really hear Shushu as kind of like the ultimate, the ultimate emo group. You know,
Yeah.
they just go deeper, and more raw than anybody I can really think of. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, that's cool. You noticed that, man. I'm amazed by that. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love both of your bands. Like
That's cool.
I I can't even like I'm not sure if you were influenced by this, but like all the different instruments on different damage, or more specifically, soft pyramids, also reminds me of like all the crazy instruments on Knife Play as well.
Exactly the same timing. And I don't know if it was like, oh, I heard it on Knife Play, let's do it. Or if we were already, I think we were kind of already into our like wild musical instruments, let's make as many sounds as we can thing. And that's why it felt so parallel. But
Yeah.
that's a really cool, that's a great thing you noticed there too. Thank you for being so observant. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Let's talk a little bit about Black Eyes, your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess on Discogs it says you do vocals on Holy of Holies from Cough.
Yeah, there's one little line that I used to sing with them because we toured extensively, especially in the year 2003. We did like a big 6 week tour across the United States together and played like every American city, which was great. And I would just jump on stage to sing this one line with Hugh, which is I don't want no ice cream love, that's too cold for me, which is from a famous reggae song that is tragically slipping my mind right now, and I'm gonna remember it as soon as we hang up the Zoom and text you and say it's blah blah blah. But it was like a lyric lifted from a reggae song that we all liked and listened to. And when I noticed it, because they hadn't recorded it yet, they were just playing it live. I was like,
Mhm.
oh hey, it's from that song. I was like, let me jump on stage and sing that with you. So like every night on tour, I would like appear on stage for like literally 4 to 5 seconds to sing that line and then jump off. And then when they recorded Cough, they said, hey, come by the studio, hang out. And they're like, hey, do you want to sing the line on the record? It's mixed very low, not too audible,
Mhm.
but it's in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Um, so I was listening to another interview
Mhm.
that you did, and you mentioned that you really thought Q and Not U's touring shape during like the 2004 Power sort of era was
Hmm.
like really good. But you also mentioned how it didn't really translate well to the studio. Uh, do you think what do you think was lost in translation or changed between the first two
Well,
albums?
I realized actually, I'm glad you asked that question right after asking about Black Eyes because I've been hanging out with them ever since their reunion. I've just been seeing a lot of them. They rehearse nearby where I live. So whenever they're all in town, I drop by, we hang out, we talk, we reminisce. And also, too, when you're young, you're not really thinking about what's going on. You're just doing.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of like midlife like review of like what were we up to? Like what was really happening here? you know? But one thing that we noticed is that Black Eyes and Q and You worked completely opposite in terms of how we did touring and songwriting. Q and You would write a record and then go record it and then tour on it. And then the songs would kind of change shape as we toured because you'd be playing them, 45 nights in a row. So obviously they kind of mutate and get a little stronger and more sturdy. Black Eyes did the opposite. They went on tour and played all their new stuff to confounded audiences and then went into the studio and recorded, which is why Cough sounds amazing as an album. It's because they had played it live, maybe even hundreds of times because they went to Europe right after that US tour that I
Yeah.
mentioned. So, the Black Eyes guys say when they go back and listen to Q and Not You albums, it's like it sounds almost alien to them because they know the songs differently. They know them as like the live band versions.
Mm.
But I know that Q and Not You had a very different idea about what the live performance thing should be. I think Black Eyes was more confrontational and they wanted to give their audience something that they hadn't seen before and just kind of like, melt their faces off. Q and You very much about like communion, and we wanted people to know the music to be able to sing along, clap along, be a
Yeah.
part of it. So it was very important for us to make sure that the record was out before we hit the road. And it might have been like, it came out and we left for tour the next day, but we wanted it to be out there and in the circulation because we wanted to have this moment with our audiences. So, there's a price to pay on both ends, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Black Eyes shows, I think, are really intense right now with dancing and recognition because everyone knows the songs now in a way that they were not back then. Like people were not going nuts at Black Eyes shows the way they are now
Mhm.
because they didn't know what they were hearing. You know what I mean? It was all brand new. And then kind of the flip side for Q and Not You. So, I mean, part of me regrets it because albums last forever, and we were very much focused on like making the record just kind of like a prelude to the live experience.
Mhm.
But again, that was just living in the moment. We were not thinking about 20 years from now. In
Yeah.
fact, it was impossible to even imagine 20 years from now when we were 20. So, but here we are, still
Yeah.
living it.
Yeah, it's almost like you were really set on preparing like the Ian MacKaye quote, the menu.
Yeah, man, it's 100%. Ian told us the menu and the meal, and I don't know if we were already doing it and said, oh yeah, same thing with the shoe comparison. Like if it's something that was already afoot and we recognized it, or if it was a prompt or not. But I mean, so much of Ian's model and the Fugazi model of how to be a band, I mean, it was just baked into it. And I realized too, even as I continue to go through life, like my conception of music and like how it should be, you know what I mean? Like what live music should feel like or can feel like, it's all rooted in Fugazi, like deeply, deeply, deeply. And I'm so grateful to it for that because I could not have imagined having a better kind of like hero family, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
oh, precursor thing to grow up around. I'm so grateful to it. Fugazi just remains fascinating to me, and like the stuff that being around that music taught me is still with me. And also too, it's not even like dogmatic. Like it's not like I became stiff and like Fugazi like. It's like
Yeah.
their curiosity and exploration and openness or whatever. That's really ultimately like the most guiding part of all of it. Is this idea of having principles while remaining totally hungry and totally curious and totally engaged. I mean,
Mhm.
what a great musical lesson to get just by happenstance, by geography, because I grew up here. I don't think it would have happened if I grew up in Ohio. Maybe in time, you know what I mean? Maybe if they came to my town and I caught it, but just to be growing up in the radius of it,
Yeah.
so, so lucky.
Yeah, really, really cool. Uh, I seem to lost my questions.
No, it's okay.
Oh
We got
yeah.
time to find it.
Yeah, okay. So how did your job at the Washington Post come about? And
It's punk related, and I'll try and tell it as quickly as possible. But when I got back from the first Q and Not You tour, I needed a day job for when we weren't on tour. And a former roommate of mine in the music scene, this guy named Bob Massey, who played in Tsunami, he played in Telegraph Melts and some other groups. We had been roommates at a punk house called Kansas House before. Excuse me. And he told me, "Hey, I know this job you can get at the Washington Post." And I thought, well, I'm not a journalist. He's like, no. It's like it's just like office work. You sort the mail, answer the phones. The fax machines were still running back in the year 2000. So he's like, you deliver faxes to people's desks. It's really easy. It's a great hourly wage and it's really flexible. So you should apply. So I applied for this job. I got it. When I got hired, I found out it's called copy aid. And it was all the things that Bob had described, just kind of like clerical office work. But everybody who worked there was kind of in the punk scene. Kathy Wilcox from Bikini Kill worked there.
Mhm.
Allison Wolf from Bratmobile worked there. Michael Cotterman from Kid Dynamite, Savage Boys and Girls Club worked there. Bob worked there, and now I worked there. And then afterwards, Justin Moyer from Super System ended up working there. This guy Brett Lyman, who played in Measles Mumps Rubella. Aaron Lightco, who did Protect You and worked at Discord for a long time. So all these kind of punk scene people worked in this job, and we had this deal where it's like, I'm going to go on tour in September, but when I get back, you're banking on tour in October, and then when you get back, her banking on tour in November, and we all kind of took turns covering for each other and had this great hourly wage, and we got healthcare. So it was like kind of like this dreamy part-time job. It was very easy. It wasn't very demanding. You could do like band stuff in the downtime while you're waiting for the phones to ring. So like back when Q and was still booking its own tours, I was like participating in that or making flyers, whatever.
Mhm.
And it was great. So I stayed there for the whole time that Q and existed. And then when the band broke up, very serendipitously, the Post hired a new pop music critic, this guy Josh Duloc, who quickly swooped in. He's like, "What are you going to do with your life now?" He was really watching over me in like this kind of brotherly way. And he knew that I had written for fanzines and made fanzines, and was like, "You should start writing music reviews for the Post." So he started sending me out like on little concert reviews, writing like little blurbs and stuff, preview blurbs here and there. And he really coached me and taught me how to write music journalism in a way that is suited for like a mass media audience, I guess I would say. I want to say that like fanzine writing taught me how to write and care about music and kind of put my feelings into words to some degree. But he helped teach me how to make it for a general audience, I guess you could say. And I took great pride in that, and I still do. I'm still on the quest, but I love trying to write something that like the teenage fan of it will say checks out, and then also like my parents who are in their 70s and are not attuned to like Playboy Cardi can
Yeah.
understand. You know what I mean? So if I can make it work for all audiences in between, then I feel like I've really kind of achieved some kind of communicative goal. um, in the writing. So Josh kind of gave me my training in that, and then I just kept freelancing for the Post while still doing this part-time work. And that eventually, there were some little crooks in the road here and there that I'll spare you because it'll take 20 minutes to talk about. But ended up being hired to be the music critic and take Josh's spot in 2009, and that's been, I mean, what, 16 years now. So
Yeah.
getting up there with it, yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. I mean, I don't know how I'm doing because I also happen to be a music writer.
Yeah.
I'm just doing a lot of interviews right now, and they I don't think they will appeal to the mass audience.
Well, what you just said though is really important. Use the word doing, and that's what it is. I think a lot of people, when they think about paths they want to go on, they spend a lot of time thinking about them or wondering about them.
Mhm.
Just doing it is the work. You know what I mean? And before anyone teaches you anything, I think you have to somehow kind of teach yourself a little bit too. So don't apologize or hesitate with like your impulses. Like obviously you're very good at like tracking people down to get them to talk to you. Like just keep following. If you want me to divert into like career advice stuff here, just keep following your arrow here and following the light and following your impulses. This is another conversation I have with black guys a lot too. We're like, yo, how did we do this? We were teenagers, or like just out of our teens when we were making this music. Like it's really wild to think about that. And it's like there's so much power in the idea of intuition and youthful intuition. And I think as people become adults, they sort of like squeeze it out of themselves almost. Intuition is not professional and it's not knowledge based. You go to college and you're taught that like learning is what's going to guide you, not your intuition. And you kind of shove intuition to the side. And I think so much of American adulthood under capitalism is people shoving this powerful force out of their life. So part of like reconnecting with black guys and also like the pandemic and reconnecting with hardcore during the pandemic and just having what other people would consider a midlife crisis, for me, I'm having like a midlife opportunity and trying to go back and reconnect with intuition as this powerful, powerful force that can guide us. So it sounds like from the little I know about you, intuition is serving you very well so far. So make sure that you protect it and hold on to it. Of course, pursue higher learning in whatever way you want to and learn as much about this world as you can, 100%. But it's like trusting your sort of like mysterious inner impulse. I think it can take people really far and help them live the lives that they want to.
Yeah, like travel to Ethiopia, learn
Yeah, yeah,
learn how to cook the way they do.
yeah, man. Sure, but whatever it is, whatever it is.
I mean, I'm sure I could learn how to do that here. There's such a great Ethiopian community around here.
No, for sure. People always I think the grammar of this in America is like follow your dreams or follow your heart. And
Mhm.
those are fine sentiments too, but I really think it's like believing in your own impulse. That's something that is not nurtured. And always like, people say like, oh, you're going into music, like, oh, do you have a backup plan? Oh, you're going to go to art school. So how are you going to use that? You know what I mean? No one ever says like, you're going to art school. Wow. You're committing your life to pursuing, your imaginative vision that's in your head. That's incredible. You know what I mean? Like no one ever said that to anybody. You know what I mean? Like it's just, we live in this really backwards world that way. So anyway, the intuition drum is one that I'm banging loud for the rest of my life. And just if for anything selfishly to keep that flame burning inside myself.
I have a question that might endanger your job, so you don't um I guess ever since Jeff Bezos took a hold of the Post, um like I guess how has that affected you, and um does it make you consider your position at all?
I have not changed my work at all. Um, a lot of the things that have happened at the Post are very alarming to me. It's changing in
Hmm.
what seem to be fundamental ways, but it has not come to my personal doorstep yet, and none of my work has been altered because of it. So I will have a different answer for you should that day ever come, but I'm still allowed to write what I think, feel, and believe in. And no one is coming over and saying, "Hey, you should go a little easier on Katy Perry," whatever. It's not happening. So that's a bad example, but you know what I mean? No one is interfering with what I am saying
Yeah.
in my work. So until then, I'm just going to keep on doing it. And that's where I'm at with it. I'm very, very lucky at the Post because, first of all, positions like mine are incredibly rare. They don't really exist anymore. Like music critics, when a news organization loses one, they don't tend to rehire them, and it's just kind of this freelance world,
Hmm.
which is unfortunate because I think it hurts the discourse and it hurts our general understanding of music. So I understand how sacred the job is and want to kind of protect it and make sure that um, there's no reason for the post to zap it and wish it away. But that doesn't mean like I'm, playing within some kind of set of rules to protect it. I believe in like doing great work that helps people understand. And again, kind of going back to what we say, helping like everyone from teenagers to senior citizens like understand what Playboy Cardi might sound like or be like is valuable to me. Um, but yeah, until there's interference, like I'm just gonna keep going about it. But they go. But the thing about the post again, tremendous freedom. Like no one has ever said like, "Oh, Taylor Swift is coming out and you should write it this way," or it should be that. You know what I mean? I have total permission to be honest about my listening experience,
Yeah.
which is incredible. So, a good example of that would be just a huge profile of this band called Strawman Army.
Hmm.
They're not in any way a mainstream group that a lot of people are interested in, but I'm interested in them. I think they're incredibly consequential and unique, and their message is unique for its time, and the way that they're expressing it is unique. And it's my job to kind of like pull up a rock and say, "Look under here. This is incredible over here." I don't want to say that their music is under a rock. Maybe I should say around a corner, whatever,
Yeah.
outside of on a horizon. Look over there. That's really what it is. And I write those stories, and they get printed in the way that they're written. So I'm incredibly lucky. So far, to answer your question, honestly, like it hasn't affected me yet. It's affected my colleagues, affected some of my peers. I've had peers who have left, a lot of peers who have left the paper in the past 6 months, and it's heartbreaking to lose them. But also the other part is they're still my friends. They still live here in DC. It's not like they're excommunicated from my heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just and I just don't think I think writers. It doesn't matter what teams they play for. You know what I mean? The writing is what it is, and for me, the writing is always what it's going to be about. And until if any external force ever tries to mess with that, then I have an issue. But so far, so good. So
Yeah.
for me, okay.
Yeah. I really love it when I guess music journalism is more focused on, I guess, sort of bringing light to new artists.
Yeah,
Because I don't know, I do sometimes watch people like Anthony Fantano, um, but sometimes um, like his main channels is mainly just album reviews, which is nice if you want to get like a hang of the album. But it really just sets a universal opinion that like almost everybody on the internet follows,
yeah.
and so it really just homogenizes the perspective.
I agree. I agree. A diversity of thought is good. I love reading critics I disagree with. Either they change my mind or they help me better understand the way I feel about something. You know what I mean? So I say the same thing to readers when they're upset. If I read a review that they really disagree with and they've written me to protest, I say, hey, I'm really glad you wrote to me. And I hope that what I said helped you figure out where you're at. You know what I mean? Like if this thing that I've critiqued makes you love the thing you've loved even more, then like maybe we created some value here together by me being like sort of like a antagonist to your thinking about it. So yeah, a diversity of opinion is good and healthy, and it's shrinking, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And also too with Fantano, it's amazing to me because I mean, I could talk trash all day about all the problems I have, but the main thing I have is what you're talking about, this kind of like singular thing. It's like, why is this one, not even him, but like, why is any one person kind of the one person calling the shots? And where are the people who want to like dethrone him or whatever? There's a lot, I mean,
Yeah.
like in the podcast world, like you have Joe Rogan, but you also have a lot of other people doing Joe Rogan-y stuff. You know what I mean? So I don't know why Fantano kind of remains sort of unchallenged in his space. It's really interesting to me. Maybe
Mhm.
that'll change. I mean, everything's always changing, so who knows?
Yeah, I don't think it's completely his fault that it's homogenized. I think it's partially the way the internet works and algorithms.
Sure, that's true too. I mean, you could also say that I guess Pitchfork kind of is seen as like the same kind of like monolithic shot caller, if you will. But I don't know. The one thing that punk taught me too is like search elsewhere. You know what I mean? If you're not getting what you want from the main channel, from MTV, from the radio or whatever, go look somewhere else, and you'll find what hopefully you'll find something that's interesting to you. So
Yeah.
It's always been this way. I know people kind of say, oh, we're entering this new horrible time where it's this monoculture, and it's like, well, the monoculture was pretty darn big in the 90s. MTV had a vice grip, and there was one radio station in every town, and this was how
Yeah.
our music culture was presented to us. And then you just start looking elsewhere and finding.
Yeah. Like
So.
Razum, you did an article on that. I discovered, met, and had a good conversation with this one band, Birth Defects, all last
Oh
Saturday.
yeah, cool. Yeah.
And so, like within the span of like 4 hours, I discovered this band's music and like started talking to them, and they gave me a huge list of albums I should listen to. It
Oh, great.
was
Cool.
amazing.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, it happens fast. That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I guess the moral of the story is um touch grass.
Yeah, for real. No, honestly, it's out there. The world is big, and you got to go. It's not going to come to you. You
Mhm.
know, you got to go to Ethiopia and learn how to cook.
Yeah. I, I would actually love to do that.
Yeah. Hey, man. I'm cheering for you.
Yeah. Um, okay. Stock questions, end of
Mhm.
interview type stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Um, so since we're all in the DMV area,
Hmm.
um, what are some of your favorite restaurants? And what book might you recommend slash what book are you reading right now?
Okay. Favorite restaurants are kind of wild because the COVID shutdowns like really changed everything. So my favorite place forever was Great Wall,
Hmm.
Szechuan Chinese on 14th Street that just went out of business last year. So I'm still just grieving that, and I haven't found a new favorite since then. I'm trying to explore some of the places up on Rockville Pike now and find some new spicy Chinese places. There's another place that was called up in Durwood that I really liked called what was it called? It was called Mr. Wang's, and then they changed their name to like Wang Dynasty or something like that, I think. But then I just drove by there yesterday because my car repair shop is by there, and I was like, oh great, I can go get lunch and bring it home. And they went out of business as well. So the restaurant's getting incredibly tumultuous. So I need new faves. Tell your readership to send them to me at the Washington Post. Uh, what book am I reading right now? I have this. I don't want to say it's a bad habit. I think it's a good habit. I read like 6 books at once.
Hmm.
So I just finished a strange graphic novel last night called Gates of Plasma by this guy. What's his? Carlos Gonzalez is his last name. I'm reading it on the shelf right now. Um, I'm reading a book of critical essays by Andrea Long Chu, who's a TV and theater critic and book and literature critic for New York Magazine, and she won the Pulitzer Prize a few years ago. And I'm love hating it. It's an exact example of like a critics who you agree with and disagree with, and learning from the people who you like or who are saying things that resonate and things that don't. But reading her is very interesting because one essay I'm all in, and then the next one I'm just like, no, 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 no. So it's been very, very fascinating. A really cool experience to read that. I'm reading this novel. Hold on, let me find it that I'm about to finish today called Sunken Land Begins to Rise by this guy, M. John Harrison, who is a British science fiction novelist. But I guess this is kind of like his Earthbound tale, and it takes place in London. And it's like some kind of strange, it's not like aliens are visiting. There's like some kind of strange sunken life that's in the soil that is like maybe beginning to emerge into society. But I have like 60 pages left and it hasn't really revealed itself, and I don't think it's actually going to. And I don't really like characters in novels, but I love the two protagonists of this so much. Like I do not care about characters. I don't even care about plot normally. I just kind of care about sensation in a novel more than anything. Um, but I have to maybe I'll reread this. There's something about these two characters. I really, really like them. And it's been so long since I've like thought of a character in a novel almost as like a person that I wonder how they're doing. You know what I mean? Like when I'm not reading the book, I'm like, oh, I wonder how Shaw is doing today. You know what I mean? It's really so. Anyway, though that's what I just list for. I think there's probably like 5 more downstairs. I'm always doing a lot at the same time. I think it's easier for me to read books if I have options going. Sometimes I'll have a pile of them and I'll read like 10 pages from each. And someone's like, oh, that's a really like, do you have like, attention deficit problems or something? Da, da, da. And I don't think it's that. There's something about variety and switching gears. Maybe
Yeah.
I got it from music. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I don't just like listen to John Coltrane on Tuesday only. You know what I mean? Like we switch through and flip the channel and stuff. So I think reading can be the same way. It makes the books easier to get through too. Like if you told me I had to read one book at a time and get through the whole thing before I could go to the next one, I wouldn't read books. But because I read this way, I read like 100 books a year, you know? So
Nice.
yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. I have to get back to class now.
Okay, cool, man. If you wanted to do a follow up or anything else, holler anytime. I'm sorry it was tricky to schedule, but
Yeah.
good luck to you. Keep following your intuition. You're doing great. A sophomore, it's amazing that you're doing this. Like I didn't really kick into gear with any of this until I was like the second half of senior year. I was like, oh yeah, the world outside. So big respect to you.
All right.
That's
Thank you
awesome.
so much.
Peace.
Bye.